Silence of the Hollow. Erin Hartley stepped out of her car and stretched, her gaze sweeping over the faded signs and shuttered windows of Eldridge Hollow. The town was a stark contrast to the city's endless drones she had escaped, yet the silence here seemed to hum with an odd, unsettling frequency. As the sun dipped below the tree line, casting long shadows through the streets, Erin couldn't shake the feeling that the quiet of this place was merely the calm before a storm. Within her first week, as Erin unpacked boxes and transformed an ancient, creaking house into something resembling a home, she was introduced to the peculiar lore of the town. It was at the local market, amidst aisles lined with locally grown produce and homemade jams, that she first heard whispers of the autumn equinox phenomenon. "It's no ordinary event," murmured Miles Donovan, his voice roughened by age and eyes twinkling with a mix of mischief and warning. His stories of a haunting melody that silenced anyone who heard it seemed like the ramblings of an old man intent on frightening the new resident. Yet, the earnestness in his tone suggested something more. Soon, Erin met Leah Thompson, the vibrant local schoolteacher whose bright clothes seemed to defy the town's dreary palette. Leah spoke with a fervor that confirmed what Miles had hinted at, her concern palpable as she recounted how the phenomenon affected her students and their families. Then there was Henry Archer, the sheriff, whose stern demeanor softened somewhat as he admitted his primary concern, the safety of Eldridge Hollow's residents. Henry, though skeptical of Erin's scientific approach to the town's mysteries, acknowledged that her expertise might offer new insights. On the outskirts of town, living in a house shrouded by overgrown ivy and rumors just as tangled, was Evelyn Clark. The elderly woman, known for her eccentricities and intimate knowledge of the town's more supernatural elements, regarded Erin with sharp, assessing eyes. "You'll hear it soon enough," she said, a note of ominous certainty in her voice. "And you'll want to know why it happens." Drawn into the heart of Eldridge Hollow's mystery by this strange ensemble, Erin's skepticism began to waver. Each story, each piece of the puzzle laid before her by her new acquaintances, pulled her deeper into the town's enigmatic grip. As the equinox approached, Erin realized that unraveling this mystery wasn't just about scientific curiosity anymore, it was about survival. What was this melody that had the power to silence a town, and why did it only occur with the turning of the season? Her determination to find answers promised to unearth secrets that perhaps were meant to remain hidden beneath the hollow's eerie silence. The crisp autumn air was thick with anticipation as the equinox approached. Erin Hartley, her mind buzzing with technical theories and equations, found herself walking alongside Miles Donovan, whose stories seemed to seep out of the very walls of the town. The old historian, with his deep knowledge of Eldridge Hollow, guided Erin through the creaky floorboards of the local library, where dusty tomes whispered secrets of the past. As Miles recounted tales of a malevolent entity believed to be linked to the haunting melody, Erin's skepticism was put to the test. Each story was more chilling than the last, speaking of a time when the melody had first appeared, bringing with it unexplained silence and fear. In the dim light of the library, Erin set up her recording equipment, her hands adept at calibrating the sensitive devices. She was determined to capture any anomaly in the sound patterns during the equinox. As they worked, Leah Thompson joined them, her face etched with concern. Leah shared her personal experiences, her voice barely above a whisper, recounting evenings spent calming terrified children who had heard fragments of the melody in their dreams. Her vivid accounts added a palpable urgency to the investigation. Outside, the town of Eldridge Hollow was eerily quiet, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Henry Archer, the sheriff, despite his initial doubts about Erin's scientific approach, had arranged for them to have unrestricted access to various points around town, thought to be epicenters of the eerie occurrences. His stern face often appeared at the library window, checking on their progress and ensuring their safety. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Erin and her team set up microphones around the central square, the spot where the melody was often reported to be most powerful. As the night unfolded, a soft hum, almost imperceptible, filled Erin's headphones. The sound waves appeared on her laptop in a pattern she couldn't have predicted, defying the usual laws of acoustics. The minor revelation sent a shiver down her spine, suggesting that perhaps there was some truth to the supernatural tales intertwined with the town's history. This blend of science and folklore, of empirical evidence and eerie anecdotes, fueled Erin's resolve. She knew that the key to understanding the haunting melody lay somewhere between the measurable world and the legends that Miles spoke of with such reverence. As they delved deeper, each eerie encounter, each minor revelation, drew them closer to the equinox, to a truth that seemed as elusive as the mist that rose each morning over Eldridge Hollow. As the equinox night darkened, the forest around Eldridge Hollow seemed to close in, the trees whispering secrets of ancient times. Erin Hartley, equipped with her specialized acoustic gear, led the small group deeper into the wooded labyrinth. Miles Donovan, his historian's eye alert to every historical marker they passed, held tightly to his lantern, casting long shadows that danced around them. Leah Thompson's face was set, determined, her hand gripping her own flashlight like a lifeline as they moved through the underbrush. Sheriff Henry Archer brought up the rear, his presence a reassuring solidity. The melody started as a whisper, a haunting tune that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Erin paused, adjusting her equipment, trying to pinpoint the direction of the eerie sound. The musical notes, soft yet clear, grew gradually louder, weaving through the trees. It was beautiful yet terrifying, a sound that promised silence to those who listened too closely. Miles pulled out an aged map, yellowed with time, pointing to a spot marked with an ancient symbol. "It should be here," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the strengthening melody. Erin nodded, her device leading them to the very heart of the forest where the sound was strongest. They found the artifact at the base of an old, twisted oak tree, half buried in the earth, covered in moss and ivy. It was a stone, ancient and rune-carved, pulsing faintly with a light that seemed to beat in time with the melody. As Erin set up her equipment around the stone, the melody intensified, a sound so powerful it vibrated in their chests, threatening to overwhelm their senses. Erin adjusted the settings on her device, her fingers steady despite the growing music. "It's now or never," she said, looking to her companions. They all nodded, their faces tense in the dim light. Erin activated her equipment, sending a counter-frequency that clashed with the melody. The air seemed to shudder as sound battled sound. Erin's device emitted a high-pitched counter-melody, designed to disrupt and ultimately silence the haunting tune. The stone vibrated wildly, the light flaring brightly before it started to dim. The melody wavered, notes distorting and falling away until, with a final pulse, the sound abruptly ceased. Silence fell over the forest, deep and complete. The group stood still, hardly daring to breathe as they waited. Slowly, natural sounds began to fill the air again. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a night bird, sounds that had been absent for too long. Erin let out a long, slow breath, her relief palpable. Miles closed his eyes for a moment, his face relaxing. Leah turned her flashlight off, the moon now providing enough light in the clearing. Henry, who had been skeptical from the start, managed a small smile. They had done it. The curse of the melody was broken. The artifact, now just a stone, lay inert and harmless at the base of the tree. Eldridge Hollow would be silent no more, freed from the haunting melody by the combination of science and old lore. Together, they turned and began the walk back to the town, leaving the quiet forest to heal and thrive in the newfound silence. Erin's shoulders sagged with relief as the last ethereal notes of the haunting melody dissolved into the cool morning air. The group, clustered tightly in the town square, exchanged weary but triumphant smiles. The counter-frequency had worked, breaking the spell that had threatened to envelop Eldridge Hollow in a permanent, unnatural silence. As the sun peeked over the horizon, washing the town in a gentle orange glow, the sense of victory was palpable. Miles approached Erin, his weather-beaten face breaking into a rare grin. "Your science might just be the magic we needed," he said, clapping her on the back gently. Leah, her vibrant attire a stark contrast to the dim dawn, hugged Erin tightly. "We couldn't have done this without you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Henry, who had stayed quietly vigilant through the night, finally allowed himself to relax. The sheriff looked around at the assembled group, his stern features softening. "I have to admit I had my doubts," he confessed, "but seeing what we've accomplished here tonight..." "Erin, you've saved our town." Evelyn, ever the enigmatic figure, nodded sagely at Erin. "You've done more than just silence a curse," she said, her voice low and intense. "You've united this town in a way I haven't seen in many years. Eldridge Hollow will remember this night." As they began to disperse, heading towards their homes for some much-needed rest, Erin felt a deep contentment. She had come to Eldridge Hollow seeking quiet, but found a community, a purpose, and perhaps a new home. The mystery of the haunting melody had been unraveled not just by her acoustical expertise, but by the collective effort of a town that refused to be silenced. In the stillness of the dawn, Erin realized that sometimes the most profound silences were those shared in unity and peace. As the last notes of the counter-frequency faded into the crisp autumn air, a profound silence enveloped Eldridge Hollow. The eerie quiet that once heralded fear was now a symbol of triumph. Erin Hartley watched as faces once marred by anxiety softened into smiles of relief and gratitude. The haunting melody that had plagued the town for generations was finally silenced, its mysterious entity no longer a threat thanks to Erin's scientific ingenuity and the unity of the townspeople. The night following the phenomenon's defeat, the town square buzzed with an impromptu celebration. Lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, casting warm light on the cobblestones, while laughter and music filled the space, a stark contrast to the fearful whispers that once dominated. Erin, who had once been viewed with suspicion as an outsider, found herself at the heart of the festivities. Miles clapped her on the back with a grin, Leah hugged her tightly, and even Sheriff Henry Archer raised his glass in a nod of respect. Choosing to stay in Eldridge Hollow was an easy decision for Erin. The town, with all its quirks and shadows, had become her home. As she looked around at the joyful faces, she realized that these people were her people now. They had faced the unknown together and would continue to do so, whatever may come. The next day, as the autumn leaves rustled in the gentle wind, Erin took a walk to the edge of town where the dense forest met the backyards of the weathered old homes. Evelyn Clark was there, leaning on her fence, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of someone who had seen too much yet still found joy in the simplicity of a quiet morning. "You've done well, child," Evelyn said, her voice carrying the weight of unspoken stories. "But remember, some silences are heavy with words unspoken. Listen to them." Erin pondered Evelyn's words as she walked back through the town. The mystery of the melody might have been solved, but Eldridge Hollow, with its deep forests and ancient secrets, still held many more. What other stories were hidden in the silent shadows? What new challenges might the next equinox bring? In life, as in the eerie quiet of the hollow, the absence of noise often speaks loudest. Listening, truly listening, might just be the key to understanding the unknown. Always remember, in the silence, listen for the echoes of what is not said. It could mean the difference between mere survival and true understanding.